It's 1984. Horror movies are cheap slasher knockoffs with masked killers who can't talk. Then Wes Craven drops a bomb that changes everything. A burned child killer who attacks you in your dreams. You can't run. You can't hide. You can't even stay awake forever. While Jason was stumbling through Camp Crystal Lake and Michael Myers was walking really slowly, Freddy Krueger was conquering the one place no other villain dared to go: your subconscious mind. This wasn't just another horror movie. This was lightning in a bottle. Pure, terrifying genius. And Hollywood took that genius, squeezed every dollar out of it, and turned the most frightening concept in cinema history into a wise-cracking comedy act. This is the story of how corporate greed murdered the perfect horror villain. Let me tell you about Wes Craven in the early 80s. The man was a professor turned filmmaker who understood fear better than anyone in Hollywood. While other directors were making movies about guys in masks stabbing teenagers, Craven was asking a much darker question. What if the thing you feared most could follow you into your dreams? The concept was brilliant in its simplicity. Dreams. The one place where we're all vulnerable, where logic doesn't apply, where anything can happen. Craven created a villain who didn't need to break down doors or chase you through the woods. He was already inside your head. And then came Robert Englund. Not some hulking bodybuilder or stoic presence. A classically trained actor who understood that true horror comes from personality, not just violence. Englund didn't just put on a mask, he became a nightmare made flesh. The original Nightmare on Elm Street was made for $1.8 million. Look at modern horror budgets. Most stay low to mid-range, but when studios do throw money at horror, they create soulless CGI nightmares that cost 10 times what Craven spent and deliver 1/10 the scares. Craven used every trick in the book: rotating rooms, innovative practical effects, genuine scares that didn't rely on cheap jump cuts. The result? A masterpiece that made $57 million worldwide on a $1.8 million budget and created the blueprint for psychological horror. But more importantly, it introduced the world to a villain unlike anything they'd ever seen. By 1987, Freddy Krueger wasn't just a movie character, he was a cultural phenomenon. Kids were dressing up as him for Halloween. Adults were buying Freddy gloves, Freddy hats, Freddy everything. Dream Warriors proved that sequels could expand on greatness instead of just copying it. The concept evolved. Now the survivors were fighting back, learning to use their dream powers against their tormentor. It was brilliant storytelling that respected the original while pushing the mythology forward. Robert Englund was doing the talk show circuit. Freddy was hosting MTV segments. The burned child killer was becoming popular? This should have been a warning sign, but the money was too good to ignore. New Line Cinema, the house that Freddy built, was riding high. The studio had found their golden goose, their franchise player, their answer to Universal's classic monsters. Freddy was everywhere: comic books, novels, fan conventions. The character had transcended horror to become pop culture royalty. But with great power comes great responsibility, and Hollywood was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Here's where everything went wrong. Studio executives looked at Freddy's popularity and made the worst decision in horror history. If people like him, let's make him more likable. The Dream Master was the beginning of the end. Suddenly, Freddy wasn't just killing teenagers, he was entertaining them first. The quips became more important than the scares. The one-liners overshadowed the horror. By The Dream Child, Wes Craven was completely out of the picture. The studio didn't need the creator anymore. They had the formula. Freddy shows up, makes jokes, kills people in increasingly ridiculous ways, roll credits. Even Robert Englund could see what was happening. In interviews, he tried to maintain the balance between horror and humor, but the studio wanted comedy first, terror second. Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare, wasn't just bad. It was insulting. They literally called it The Final Nightmare, and then spent 90 minutes making Freddy into a slapstick comedian. 3D glasses, cartoon sound effects, celebrity cameos, everything except actual horror. The numbers don't lie. Each sequel made less money and got worse reviews. The cultural phenomenon was becoming a cultural embarrassment. Freddy went from nightmare to annoyance to that franchise that won't die. The entire horror genre suffered. Other studios saw Freddy's decline and thought the answer was more comedy, more self-awareness, more winking at the audience. Scream worked because it was smart about it. but dozens of imitators missed the point entirely. In 1994, Wes Craven tried to save his creation with New Nightmare. It brought the real Freddy into the real world to terrorize the actors who played his victims. It was brilliant, terrifying, and completely ignored by audiences who'd been trained to expect Freddy the comedian. New Nightmare proved that Craven still understood his creation, but it was too little, too late. The character had been so damaged by corporate interference that audiences couldn't take him seriously anymore. After nearly a decade in development hell, Freddy vs. Jason finally happened in 2003. The ultimate crossover that horror fans had been begging for since the 80s. And you know what? It was exactly what it needed to be. A ridiculous, over-the-top battle royale that didn't pretend to be high art. The movie made $116 million worldwide and gave Robert Englund a proper send-off as Freddy. It wasn't scary, but it wasn't trying to be. It was two icons beating the hell out of each other, and sometimes that's enough. Then came the ultimate insult, the 2010 remake. Jackie Earle Haley replacing Robert Englund, trying to make Freddy scary again by removing everything that made him interesting in the first place. No personality, no charisma, no understanding of what made the original work. The remake made money. Of course it did. Horror remakes always do. But it proved that you can't just press reset on greatness. You can't manufacture what Craven and Englund created organically. The original Nightmare on Elm Street still dominates streaming platforms. It still tops greatest horror villain lists. It still influences filmmakers today, but we'll never get that character back. Not the way he was meant to be. Wes Craven created something perfect. A villain who attacked the one place no one else had thought to go. A character who represented genuine primal fear while still being charismatic enough to carry a franchise. A movie that worked on every level, as horror, as metaphor, as pure entertainment. And Hollywood destroyed it. Not through malice, but through the worst kind of ignorance. The belief that if something works, you can improve it by committee. That if people like something dark and dangerous, they'll like it even more if you make it safe and marketable. Robert Englund hung up the razor glove after Freddy vs. Jason in 2003, and rightfully so. He gave us the definitive version of the character across 8 films, and no one will ever come close to matching what he accomplished. Now here's a question for you. Who is your favorite horror villain of all time? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.